time coming. We talked about doing this way back in July, even.
Yeah, back at Wild Goose, we were trying to get together.
Ian, I think you might be hearing our feed playing out through your speakers. No, somebody's hearing the feed somewhere. I am completely jinxed today, Ian. I don't know if you know, but I'm completely jinxed on all things technological today. And that's not a good thing for someone running a radio program and trying to broadcast it live on the internet.
Someone has a pacemaker.
So, Ian, the book is called Jesus, My Father, the CIA, and Me, a memoir of sorts.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that of sorts in the subtitle. You say it's a memoir, but not just a memoir, or it's a memoir of a certain kind. Tell us what you're getting at in it's a memoir of sorts.
In the first couple of pages of the book, I come out and just say that the book dances on the hyphen between being a straight memoir and being autobiographical fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned when writing a memoir is that it's difficult to tell the full truth about your childhood and stick to the facts.
Yes, right.
And so, lest I become known as the James Fry of Christian memoir writing.
Yeah, you decided to just put it on the subtitle. I made some of this up.
And in the first 3 pages of the book.
Yeah.
Because she's a mutual friend, after I wrote the first 3 pages,
mm-hmm.
I sent it to Phyllis Tickle.
Yes.
And I said, Phyllis, tell me, is it really, really clear? And she said, honey, I think you're covered.
Yeah, right. So why did you feel the need to write a book that's a memoir of sorts? What is it about the either the memoir genre or the autobiographical genre that wasn't the way you wanted to tell the story of Jesus, your father, the CIA, and you?
In a lot of ways, the book is more about how I felt my childhood
mm-hmm.
versus being a journalistic report of precisely what happened in my childhood. And so, and also, I did things like I changed virtually everyone's name,
okay,
which are typically you don't do in the genre of memoir.
I see.
There were, because there were stories related to the intelligence services, I couldn't tell all of them,
mm-hmm.
or tell them in full. There were just a whole host of reasons why I had to dip in and out, or I should say, sort of segue back and forth. But I think what's important, though, for a reader to understand is that the book is true, either in fact or in essence. And I never really depart so far from, I don't devolve into like wild fiction.
Okay.
Yeah. You can trust that when you read the book that it's an accurate portrayal of what my childhood felt like, what its texture was like, and who the people were in it.
Yeah, and I guess in some ways what you're trying to do in the book is to tell the true story without having to only use the facts that would be available to you as from an 8-year-old's memory or from trying to recount your parents' details of specific things that happened. You're trying to tell the truth of the story as you experienced it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And, if my brother or my sister told the story, this is why I laugh about the whole idea of absolute versus relative truth. It's such a silly, argument.
Right.
They would have a different truth. They would have a completely different truth about what happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which is why I didn't touch them with a stick in the book, because I think it's presumptuous to tell their story. They would have an entirely separate truth about it.
We interviewed a neuroscientist on the show a while back who's doing study on certainty, and he has a really great anecdote in his book where he talks about that they did a study of people who saw the Challenger shuttle explode,
mm-hmm.
and they had them write down that day that it happened, where they were, what happened, and all the rest. And then 10 years later, followed up with these people and asked them to tell what happened on the day that they saw the shuttle explode. And people told the stories, and then they gave them their pieces of paper from what they had written, and folks would say things like, well, that's my handwriting, but that's not what happened that day. Right? Like they had become confident in their memory that didn't comport any longer with their own accounting of it 10 years previous. And I think your book brings that out a little bit, that, look, there's a way we remember things that is very meaningful and true to us, and that's different than this is just what happened.
Oh, absolutely. And I would expect in an autobiography for complete journalistic accuracy. Mm-hmm. That's what has to happen.
Right.
But in a memoir, I think we have to give an author permission, and as long as they're transparent about what they're doing,
mm-hmm.
to actually paint a painting versus take a photograph.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about the book then, for those who haven't had a chance to read it. Jesus, My Father, the CIA, and Me.
Sure,
now,
yeah.
Obviously, there's some connection between faith and your dad and the CIA, and in this case, it is that your dad was, or is he still?
My dad died in 1986.
Do you know that for sure, or is that one of those CIA tricks?
Pretty good about it.
Yeah.
I did. It was an open casket wig.
Okay.
We're Irish, so I'm fairly certain it was him. It didn't look like a wax figure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
My dad was a successful motion picture and television executive in the 1950s and early 1960s. At the same time, he was working with or for, I'm not entirely sure, the brand new Central Intelligence Agency, as it had morphed over from the Office of Strategic Services. And he was recruited by either Wild Bill Donovan or one of that inner circle of guys who started that agency. And when we were living in England, that's what he was doing at the same time that he was working for Columbia Screen Gems Motion Pictures.
Well,
so, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, hey, I was just going to say we're gonna hold you over here into the next segment and talk about this. But that's just so terribly intriguing to me, and I want to know the ideas or the happenings that went around how your dad is approached and why he was approached to be a member of the CIA in its early days. I mean, I'm sure that's kind of just part of your history and interesting enough to include in the memoir. But does it ever sort of like just dawn on you how odd that is, or how peculiar that is, that your dad was approached to be a member of the secret Central Intelligence Agency?
There are so many weirder parts of my life
is that
that
right?
overshadow that I'm not sure I would have focused in too hard, too closely on it.
Really? Because in my life that would have been that would have been tops. Like do you tell people about that? Because I've known you for a while, and I never knew that your dad was in the CIA until this book came out.
No, I don't. I don't go around advertising it. I do now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You do, as long as people can still buy Jesus, My Father, the CIA, and Me at their local bookstore and Amazon book retailer online.
That's
right,
absolutely correct.
Then you're okay. So when we come back, I want to hear a little bit more about that with your dad and the CIA, and then also this play of your religious experience. And for a lot of people, and this is why I think the book's really tapping into people's imaginations and their experience, that there seems to be this connection in our world between religion and parenthood and all of the kind of political apparatus that seems to be running and moving in the world that we live in, and that's something you're wanting to address in the book, right? Do I have you right?
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Okay, so that's Ian Cronn. The book is called Jesus, My Father, the CIA, and Me. Hang tight, and we'll come back and chat with him a little bit more about the connection between those ideas.